Oh, homies, my core is obliterated. Obviously, from the title, the barbell has come in. I finally have it. I got to mess around with it yesterday on the active rest day. Feels awesome. I love it a lot. It feels a lot better. The best way I've been able to describe it to people is the no knurling, super whippy over bendy barbell at the crunch. It just whips so way too much to where I can't really manually feel every single part of the lift. This barbell feels like a stiff Olympic bar where it spins just how it's supposed to, feels just as like whippable, but I can actually feel the pulling movement and the like every single bit of each pull, from the first pull to the knee, second pull to the hips, and then the third pull whipping underneath. Everything feels much more consistent and fluent, but that doesn't mean we're going to have the best day ever, you know? The $1,000 question, because that's how much the barbell costs, is, does it make your lifts better? No. Just straight up, no, it doesn't. It may make you a bit more confident. You might be running a bit of placebo. It might have more grip than what you're used to, but in my opinion, if you're doing the training properly, if you are super duper passionate and you actually care about what you're doing, the equipment is not number one. It is how much you give a shit about what lifts you are doing and what you want to work on. There are people who Olympic lift with no squat shoes. Those people are maniacs in my eyes, but they're there, you know? And so that's just not the way that I want to lift, but you don't need the best equipment. You don't need some crazy barbell. You don't need some crazy anything. So when when you see this and you think, oh, he must have had the best clean and jerk day ever. It's like, hell no. This is one of the hardest days I've had in a long time. And part of that is because since the bar is so much less whippy, which is good, but it's also now at a point where I'm having to activate my core a lot more manually to stand it back up the way I'm supposed to. Because with the super whippy bar, especially with heavy squats, using that bendy of a bar that they have at the crunch, you see it bends around my body like it's going to snap in the middle. And that can't, if I can control it on the way down fine, that will help me explode out of the hole a lot harder. And now I'm going to have to really isolate my core confidence and the stability so that when I drive out of the squat, it's going to be all core, all quads, but that's how it's supposed to be, you know? The Olympic barbell at the crunch does not make me lift better if it's with the prerequisite that the form is there and the core is strong enough. It can bounce a little bit harder, but I don't want to rely on that bounce. I don't want to rely on the inefficiencies of another barbell for that kind of a boost, you know? And I remember I used to lift on a more stiff bar at the old gym I used to be at in Orlando, and my squat was definitely better back then because there's such a better control of confidence in the core throughout every bit of the squat, because you can't rely on that over-accentuated explosiveness out of the bottom of the hole, you know? So yeah, it's deload recovery, clean and jerk day. You know, it's triples every single set, sets of 5 for my front squats and triples for clean pulls. Everything is going to be hurting. It's a lot of core, it's a lot of quad, it's a lot of full body movements all around. I don't train my core a ton in the front, in my ab area, and so whenever I have to do a full clean jerk day, it's either the best day or it's the worst day. And not that I don't appreciate the workout. I'm just as passionate as always, but I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it felt good to feel like I was crunching every time I did a front squat, because it gets to the point where, you know, the clean and jerks went great and I'm happy with it. Again, anytime you use different equipment, you're going to have to refigure out the timing a little bit for your Olympic lifts, because it's going to move at just a slightly different pace and you're using a bit of a different mind-muscle connection where when it comes to the full lockout and the full maximum amount of intensity you put into each individual part of the lift. With something like front squat, again, feels more stable for sure, and having the knurling in the middle actually feels better and gives me a better idea of where the bar is resting on me. But one way or another, I'm still doing more volume than I'm used to. It's a new barbell. I'm figuring everything out in a bit different way, and there's less whip on the barbell in general. Let me tell you, dude, you get to a point where your delts are so fried and your core is just completely dissolved to where you just kind of have to round your upper back a little bit to make up for it, because I was committed to hitting the weight that I'm programmed to hit. I didn't go heavier than I was supposed to, but I definitely felt it today. So I'm curious to see how the front squat progresses. It might just be from the night shifts and everything else, the new barbell. You never know. So I'm just going to take the win for today and carry it with me, you know? And again, clean pulls felt great. Again, same thing as a clean jerk. Every little part of the movement, I can actually feel the manual pull. You know, I always tell people you have to get the mind-muscle connection of pulling the bar into the hips instead of pushing your hips into the bar. When you push hips to the bar, you bump it out. And that's what causes people to do a much bigger circle when whipping their elbows underneath the barbell. And it causes you to jump forward, or you'll crash way harder on it. You won't have a more stable catch. You want to pull it into your hips vertically with your arms so that you can just stand straight up with it and explode in the most vertical way, so that when you catch it, you're going to be sitting in it just like you would be in a front squat. But regardless of all this, the bigger thing I think is what I'd like to talk about is why did I spend $1,100 on a barbell that I don't quote unquote need, you know? And there's definitely a bunch of different factors that inspired me to commit, you know? I have the financial idea that if I have 6 months worth of my bills left in the bank after I make a funky purchase, we're chilling, you know? I don't make a ton of money, but I make enough, and I want to be able to give myself that little bit that I earned, that I worked for. But more so, you guys saw me traveling around for my peak week the other week, and I got to see my OG gym homie, the OG man, and my OG gym coach from the high school I grew up in. And both of them heavily motivated and inspired me to look back into competitions. It was the first time in my life I actually feel fully in control of my body. I don't have injuries happening all the time like I'm used to. My training is actually proper and working the way it's supposed to. I'm not overdoing it. I'm adhering to the pain that I feel when I feel it. I know where my weights are at, and I'm confident in the lifting that I'm doing. And I'm not just the weights and the pain, but also the form, the technique, the consistency. And so now that I've got myself to my own higher standard that I can actually sit there and appreciate, and I just really came out of getting my knee under control from the past years worth of recovery. So I figure, why not a better time to commit to the sport than now? You know, it's going to be an opportunity to put in the most passion I can put into it and surround myself with more Olympic lifters that'll hype me up even more. And so I had already been thinking about getting my own barbell for the longest time, so that I have something more consistent to lift with. But I had always thought of like, oh, let's just get something cheap, something that's like whatever off Facebook Marketplace. But I have the money for it, you know? And obviously, if you have the money for anything, it doesn't mean you should just go around spending it, whatever. But it's the fact that for months and months and months, I sit there and I look at it, and every day I get more and more sure and more impatient about wanting to buy it. And if you can sleep on something and go several days, several weeks thinking about it without feeling like it's a regretful decision, it's probably going to be a positive one for you, you know? I don't need this bar. It's not something that is going to make me the lifter that I'm trying to become, but it's going to be something that supplements me into being even more passionate through the efforts and the work that I've earned through these lifts and through my job. It's just because I'm in the gym every day doesn't mean I'm just slacking off otherwise. You guys know I work my 12-hour nights at the psych unit. I earn my damn money. I put in the work for it. And that doesn't mean I want to spend it all, but if I have the means to buy something that I know will make me the most positive, passionate form of myself today, that'll just keep hyping me up and keep uplifting me, why not? You know, that's just where I view it. If you got your bills, water, and food taken care of, and that little bit of extra financial security, you know, everything else in life after that's an accessory. You know, I hate the idea of living life and just putting everything to savings and never enjoying anything for yourself, and rather continuously making precautions for your future self when you have no idea where you're going to be, you know? But one way or another, it's really fun. I definitely feel a little goofy walking through the gym with it, but it's another boat of confidence, honestly. I love wearing it on my shoulder because, you know, I got the chicken socks, I got my Pokemon Crocs, I got my Kool-Aid Man shirt, my gold Lu Xiaojin shoes. Again, the barbell's just like my shoes. People are like, you spent $200+ on Olympic shoes? I'm like, hell yes. Because it's not that it's what I need to lift better. I can get the cheap Reebok shoes if I want to. It's the fact that it's something that I earned through my efforts in my job and the money that I've made, but also how it's going to push me through the highest passion and last forever, you know? This barbell came with a 12-year warranty. I can replace it whenever I want. That's awesome in the first place. But one way or another, I want to be that. I want to give myself exactly the good karma that I deserve, you know, if it's there, if it's reproducible. And so I'm not going to have this as something and tell people like, yeah, you need this to win. You need this to be better, because you don't. You absolutely don't. It's simply something that I want to supplement myself with throughout throughout my own passionate endeavors, my own self-fulfilling prophecy. And I know, a lot of people are going to look at it and just be like, what a waste of money. But the people who know me and the people who know how passionate I am are going to know that regardless of the money I put into it, as long as I'm okay outside of that money and I have enough for me afterward, and they know how much I care about this shit. They know it's just going to be a positive influence on my life. And it's going to keep me even more consistent, even more passionate, have an even deeper purpose and want and desire to get in there and do the best I can. Because let me tell you, it feels fucking special doing lifts with $1,000 on my chest. Because that's really what it is. It's a lot of money, man. And I'm not a money guy. I'm not a materialistic guy. But it's not the money that I care about. It's not the $1,000 price tag on it. It's the fact that it's the hours I know I put behind working for that, and the situations that I have progressed through and came out on top of throughout this year. I've had a lot go on this year, and the fact that I'm still this stable to make a purchase like this and be confident in it. And I call my mom about it, and I love my mom to death, and I care about how she feels, and so I'm automatically trying to give excuses or reasons for why I got it. She was like, dude, I know you're paying your own bills. I know you're fine. If that's what's going to make you happy, send it. I'm like, man, fuck. This got me so excited. So it feels extra special, It feels like it's something that the years of lifting and the time I put into my work to pay for my bills and become financially stable independently is the accumulation of what I've earned to put back into my passions in my own personal life, I don't want my passions to just be something I do on the side that I can do at half percentage. This is what I genuinely want. This is genuinely what I aspire to have and to do and to lift with. So why not give that to myself, especially in the moment where I've earned it, and at a point where if I'm already committed to competing now. I signed up for the competition. It's happening in August. I'm so excited. And it's the fact that not only do I feel zero regret about any of the purchases I've made, but it's also the fact that every single person I've talked to about it has just been purely supportive and purely uplifting, because they know, and just as I know, that it's going to be one of the best next steps that I can take regardless of win or fail. Because that is not what matters. I want to put myself in a position, in an environment, in a state after the accumulation of all my efforts to where I'm the highest level of passionate that I can be, And no, that does not require a $1,000 barbell. That does not require $200 lifting shoes. It's about the effort I put behind those things to supplement myself beyond what I thought I was already expected to have in the long term. I never expected to have any of this shit. I got videos back when I started Olympic lifting of me in my Air Max sneakers that were on sale back in 2017, 2016, or 2018, sorry. But anyway, it's got me excited. And that's the biggest thing. I want to come in and feel like the best version of myself every time. People don't just wake up and take a shower, blow dry their hair, brush their teeth just to, it's the consistency for yourself, but also the supplementation of feeling better, going to do the things that you want to do in your daily life. There is never a day where I go to the gym where I don't shower or bathe before the gym. And people think that's stupid. And again, I work night shift, so I don't really have time for it anyway. But I don't want to go in the gym with greasy-ass hair. I don't want to look like I just got out of bed. I want to look like $1,000,000 fucking bucks. I want to look like the best version of myself. Go lift the biggest barbell I can with the funkiest fucking outfit and a $1,000 barbell on my back, because that's what I want people to see me as. That's what I want to aspire myself to be, so that I can keep myself even more consistent, even more hooked onto this shit. I want to be obsessed with this in the most passionate way possible. I don't want to be obsessed to the point of, hurting myself. I want to be obsessed to the point where this is the thing that gives me purpose every single fucking day, no matter how bad a day I have. That's what's got me the most excited. Anyway, I'm yapping too much. Physically, again, I'm not going to lie to you. I know I didn't talk about the lifts much, but I was burning through it. It was a very quick workout for what should have been a lot longer of rest times. But still made it, still hit all the weights. Couldn't be happier about that. Got to take that and run home happy about it. The form was good. It feels a little wonky, but it's mainly just because I'm pulling the bar so much more efficiently now. Whether that's placebo or not, I'm going to run with it because it makes me feel better one way or another. And so I'll get the timing down sooner than later, and it'll feel better as I increase weight as well, because you have the best technique as the weight gets bigger, as long as you're not going too heavy. because you have to whip under the bar at the highest velocity that you can muster. But anyway, I was still pretty dead today. It was hard, but got through it. So physically, we can give it, I'll give it an 8.15. It was not a bad day by any means. I don't want to give it a 7-something because I did push through really, really well. I really committed to the best of my ability. And even though the front squats at the end are going to look ugly to most of you guys that know my typical consistency, that's just what I had today. There was nothing left. There was no way I was going to be able to hold it up better if I tried. And that's just the weight that was programmed. So I gave it my best shot because that's the weight that I've earned in this program. So it's there. Hopefully it gets better later on. If it doesn't, we'll stick at this weight next program and not stress about it. But one way or another, awesome effort and intensity regardless. Mentally, I couldn't be happier, man. I got homies supporting me. I went out to dinner with my homie, and I just brought it up, and he was like, oh, dude, when's your competition? I'm coming. I'm like, damn it, man. Just the fact of bringing up the things I'm passionate about, and people just want to be there for me. I love that. And just as much as I want to be there for them for their shit. It's that selfishness that allows people to use one another to uplift one another in the best way possible. I love it. This is why I like having training partners, because you uplift each other through your rivalry, you know? It's just, whenever a homie or my girlfriend or whoever does something nice for me, I want to give it back tenfold as best as I can. And I love that feeling. I love having the availability to do that. But one thing that really, really touched my heart, that I don't feel bad about saying at all, my OG gym homie I was talking about, my guy Desmond, I love him to death. And he's the reason I got my shit together with Olympic weightlifting. I was pretty close to quitting a couple years ago because my technique was so bad. I was never coached, and I was getting injured all the time. And he showed me the standard. You know, he showed me what it meant to get on my feet and get something consistent in my lifts and in my life in general. He helped me out on my FOMO as well. And I literally just brought up the competition and how I was wavering a little bit because I've already been spending a lot of money on the barbell and everything, but it might be something I look into. And he sent the money for it right away. He sent the money for the fucking ticket and the membership for my weightlifting comp. And that'll put a man in tears because it's the fact of, I know he knows how much I care and how much that touches me, that pushes me just to the next level of how much I want to commit to my hardest fucking extent with this shit. I don't care if I win or fail. I only care if I throw that barbell as hard as I fucking can come that meet day. I'm going to do the best I can no matter what. So mentally, easy 9.75. For sure. It was really good. I have no complaints recently. I believe I'm getting promoted in my job soon. I'm really excited for that. I'll have more availability there. A lot of family support. Just everything in my life is becoming more and more consistently positive. And as much as that is efforts on my end, it's also efforts from the people who really care about me. And that goes a long way. So I'm going to hold that close to my heart, run home screaming, bragging about it all day long, and just living the best life I can live. So one way or another, thanks for hanging out. I know I've been just yapping like crazy, but I'm excited. So I'll be back tomorrow. We have a snatch accessory with back squat. My core is going to be obliterated for sure, so I'll probably go a little bit easier on the Olympic lift, but we'll get there one way or another. Give it 100%. Keep coming back at the highest intensity and passion I can. So let me know how your lifts and lives are going. Love hearing about it, and I'll be back tomorrow. I love you guys. See you later. Bye.